what the heck are ETFs and unit trusts, and where do I put my money? What is trustworthy? It's just an ongoing list of things that move forward to learn about. Wow, I'm not explaining this analogy properly. When you're spending...
I'm following. I'm still in the car.
Yes.
Bring me there. Yeah. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to TFC.
Hello.
So Lisa runs a channel, YouTube channel, and it's called Lisa's Adulting in Singapore. Tell us about the channel. When did you start it, and why did you get started on it?
Yes, so I started my channel at the beginning of this year, towards the end of last year. And it was at the end of the year, I resolved to do a low buy year, which I'll talk about in detail later. But as part of the low buy year, I wanted a place to document my progress with it. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watch people talk about their low buy or their no buy project on YouTube. And so I thought it's like two birds with one stone, right? I want to share my progress with this project. So I started the YouTube channel. There were different options, right? So I could have done a blog, I could have done a YouTube channel, but it felt like a lot of the people I was watching was on YouTube, and I wanted to do a bit of video editing, see what I can learn from the work of producing a video, which is why I went with YouTube. And as for the content of the channel, I meant for it to be like a video journal of my journey with adulting and all the work that is involved, like from managing personal finance to housing. In my case, live in a HDB flat and manage the HDB flat. I also wanted to go into things like mental health, some behavioral things. But so far it's been quite a slow start. My content has been quite focused on personal finance for now, but that is the overall plan for the channel. Yeah, the main series on my channel is the Money Diaries, which is like a month by month recap of how the low buyer is going, and I literally just tell everybody what I've bought for the month. My channel name is Adulting in Singapore, right? So I thought including that Singapore was quite important because it contextualizes everything that I'm talking about with.
It makes sense. I mean, adulting is a phrase that's been talked about in recent years, and on your channel we don't get to see your face, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually it does read like a blog because you've written the script, you structure it, and then you present it, but your face is behind the camera. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, this could be the first time that Lisa has reviewed her face on the internet and all that. So adulting in Singapore, how you personally define adulting, and since we're the financial coconut, you can define it in relation to money, and of course other aspects as well.
I guess if you look online, the definition is something like the assumption of tasks, responsibilities, or behaviors that you associate with what a mature grown-up or adult will do. If I think, what are the first steps to adulting?
When did you first okay, I'm adulting. Now I'm an adult and I have adult responsibilities.
I think it comes with, and the realization can happen at any point of your life, right? It's not really tied to an age, like when you graduate, although that's when it happens for most people. Come to the realization that you are responsible for your own life and for sustaining that life. And it can also come together with realizing that you might be responsible for someone else's life. It could be your parents, it could be your children, if you're in that stage already. It's like understanding that you have that burden of responsibility on you, and then taking steps to do the things that would help you support and sustain that life. I think many associate adulting with very straightforward, like financial related tasks, or like knowing what phone plan to choose, or understanding CPF, or knowing what the heck are taxes and how much you have to pay. And these are for sure like the low-hanging fruit of things that you should ideally seek to know more about, not for its own sake, but because these are things that you have to do in the context of the society that you are in. It's part of you wanting to be a functional member of society in the context of the place that you live in. And so this can differ from place to place.
How did you get started? Like, when did you realize that, okay, I have to be an adult?
I think the financial management came before the concrete realization that I have to be the adult now. And that was when I was in JC. For the first time, I got my own money through a scholarship. So that was the first time I thought, okay, I have to manage this somehow. And then I was 16 at the time, which is when you can get an ATM card. So that's when I started tracking what I was spending on. And a lot of it was like food and whatever other things that I could buy online. Of course, at that time, I didn't know about investing. I didn't know about any sort of budgeting framework. All I knew was that I needed to write down what I was spending on and how much money I had left. So that was the very, very foundation. That feeling of adulting is also about maturity, right? And not just about the things that you do, but your relationships with people and how you treat them and how you are around them. That maturing is part of the adulting journey, I think. That came to me much later after I graduated, when I had to start supporting my family. And I knew that I needed to carry myself in a certain way and make decisions in a certain way that is influenced by my circumstances and wanting to have the best possible situation for them, whatever resources we had to work with.
Mm-mm. You definitely started relatively younger. You're already tracking your expenses at the age of 16. I mean, I wasn't doing that for sure at 16. I was still getting pocket money, spending within it, but I didn't know where the money was going. So it started relatively young. And then you mentioned that as you grew up, you have to also take care of some responsibilities at home. Could you share a bit about that?
When I was in my final semester, my father passed away. So he was the primary breadwinner and manager of the household in that sense. After he passed away, I am the oldest in the family, so I took over because my mother is not educated and she's also not Singaporean. So there were a lot of things that I had to learn. The worst case scenario is, of course, like she cannot stay in the country. So that was my perspective. Like, how do I keep her here with my family so that we
Can stay together as a
can,
family unit, right?
at the time we were staying with my father's sister. So in terms of like having a roof over our heads, having food on the table, that wasn't really the issue immediately. And so I was kind of shielded from that also. So I assumed responsibility, but I think only in name, with the understanding that okay, the responsibilities maybe will come later. In terms of the actual work that I have to do. And it did come later. It came in 2020 when I made a decision to move my family out. And so from there, I had already been working for about 6 months, was also at the time reading a lot about personal finance. Now that I had an income, now that I had a family to support, I was wondering what is the best way to work with what I had to support my mother. And at the time also my brother was just finishing up his junior college. And then from there, it's just like a ongoing list of things that I am learning about and executing. So having to buy the house, that was a big thing, and had to do that by myself because my mother couldn't buy a house obviously, and I'm the one with the job. And then after getting the house, okay, how do I make the house livable? How do I renovate it? What electricity retailer do I go with? I mean, even before the house, I was reading up on investing. What the heck are ETFs and unit trusts, and where do I put my money? What is trustworthy? It's just an ongoing list of things that you move forward to learn about, because with knowledge comes the power to make educated and intentional decisions. I was just absorbing everything that I could, learning everything that I could in order to live what I thought was the best life within my means right now.
So the situation with your mom and the passing of a dad, and that is really a level up in terms of adulting. And like you said, we are still adulting at this point of time in our lives,
The
right?
list never ends.
Yeah, we're constantly adulting, and there are always new things to take up, new responsibilities. And you mentioned about a house. You spoke about it in detail in one of the videos. It's very in depth, about 15 minutes long.
15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, if I did not remember wrongly. And it was okay. The title of the video, if you want to look it up, is "How I Bought a Resale HDB at 24 years old as a single." So that's very impressive.
The video itself is titled "How I Bought a HDB at 24 years old." So I mentioned it in a previous video, that how I budget my 3.2k salary, something like that. So a lot of people were already asking, can you make a follow-up? Like how the heck do you get a HDB at 24 years old? So it starts out with that intriguing situation, like because the general belief is that unless you are 35 years old,
35 years old.
you cannot buy a house you cannot buy a HDB as a single. The thing is, you can.
Then you get resale, then you need capital.
You need only resale and you need money. But in terms of the application process, I didn't appeal to anybody in terms of buying the house. I appealed for other things, but buying the house was not one of them. There is a whole list of schemes that determine whether or not you're eligible, and I happen to be eligible through one of the schemes, because of course there are going to be exceptions to the norm, and like the most common exceptions, they will have a scheme for it. Like if you're a divorced parent with children, or you're an orphan. So for myself, it was the non-citizen family scheme, where I was applying with a non-citizen parent. And so it became an interesting situation, which I put in the title, and I think that's why people clicked on it. So the how of it, I covered very clearly in the video, in terms, and also the process of what the process was for buying the house. I think more interestingly, the why of it is also something that I covered in the video.
Right, you were forced by circumstances in a way.
Yeah.
I think when people saw the title, it feels aspirational.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
what can I do to buy a HDB at 24
Yeah,
years
so
old?
I think I shattered that.
Yeah, you said
I
that.
undercut that.
And then it's like a bait and switch, and you went into something deeper.
Yeah.
Instead of telling me like how like you really share your own personal situation. And my takeaway was that like it's really personal. Like everybody's situation is different, and so this is what you have to go through.
Yeah.
As compared to someone who aspires to get a HDB at a young age, but you were forced by circumstances.
Yeah, I didn't think about it as being aspirational actually. Like the whole time when I was going through the process and even making the video, in my head it was like, oh, it's a heavy story, like a lot of regret and frustration. But then like the thought of it being aspirational or inspiring came a lot later after I published the video. Like even the thumbnail, I remember I took like a picture and I put a black overlay on it so that the text can appear more. But basically, it didn't look like, wow, look at me, I did this.
Exactly, because that's more of your style actually, which is why you also don't appear in the videos.
Oh yeah.
I think I've been tricked by too many clickbaity titles. That's why maybe it feels that way for me. Yeah, and people are clicking on it and then they realize the story. And if you look at the comments, right, and you realize that your story touched people in different ways. Upon hearing your situation, you also mentioned another video how you live on a $3,200 monthly salary in Singapore, and that did well too, right?
That is still the best video on my channel, like the in
All
terms of
time
viewings.
GOAT.
Yeah, the goat.
What is it about? Could you share with us? How did you live on your 3,200 monthly salary?
I think that's my second video on the channel, and when I made the decision to start my YouTube channel, that was one of the first videos I planned to make because it contextualizes everything, right? Like what's my monthly income, what I'm working with, why is the lifestyle that I'm living now.
What do you think it blew up though?
Oh, so two parts to that question. Why I think it blew up. So a combination of two things. Firstly, I think it was about February or March that it started blowing up. Like I was getting thousands of views each day and also a lot of people subscribing, which was insane because from end of December when I created the channel to February, I think I had like 30 subscribers and a few hundred views, which already felt like a lot. But when it blew up, I think is when the Singapore budget 2022 came out. So I'm thinking with the algorithm and the keywords, because I kind of had all the keywords. I had budget, I had Singapore, I had 2022. So YouTube and Google itself was already, okay, maybe my video time to push out now because it is with the, it intersects with the Singapore budget that was coming out at the time. And then the second thing that happened was there was this really nice guy called Christopher. I don't know him personally, but there is this personal finance group by Seedly on Facebook, right? So he posted my video on there and a lot of people found me through that Facebook group. So those two things I think led to my video like being pushed by YouTube. Yeah.
Really? You think it's the keyword? It was
I think
budget
so.
period?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
are you just downplaying yourself?
No,
really? It was
I mean,
like
why else? Because until February, nobody was looking at it. And so it just so happens. And I thought about it. Like it crossed my mind, like, do you think maybe during the budget, with the algorithm, YouTube will push my video out?
Okay. Because I'm sure there are other channels that are really budget related. Yours is not even about the Singapore budget.
Yeah.
It's your personal budget. Just that the keyword is the same, right? Budget.
Yeah. Contact location also the same.
Singapore.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other videos with the word budget in it, but they not blow up.
Plus the Christopher sharing on
plus Christopher sharing on Seedly.
And okay, maybe if we look at my content, the content of the video, people understand theory very well, right? They understand, if you read about it, you know what the 50-30-20 rule is telling you to do or advising you to do. But my video, I am fully transparent about where each dollar is going. Like, what am I putting towards investments? What am I putting towards fixed expenses and bills?
Before that, could you tell us about the 15-30?
Oh, okay. I read about it on Seedly, a framework where you budget 50% of your salary towards expenses.
Right.
Yeah, 20% to savings, which is like your immediate emergency savings, 30% to wealth. I've seen
investments, right? Wealth.
Wealth investments, putting towards retirement or any sort of long-term goal that you have. I think buying a house can be considered wealth. So it's really up to you to define.
There's so many frameworks out there, but of course you have to adjust the percentages to your own scenario.
Because sometimes expenses you cannot really change. So for me, I use that as a broad framework to think about how I should be budgeting my salary, because otherwise there's like a million combinations, a million different ways that you can organize your finances. So just having something as broad as that can help as a starting point. Yeah, and to keep you like in that general direction or trajectory. Yeah, I've seen like 10% for contributions, 10% to parents, 10% like that kind of thing. So there are just a bunch of different ways. I've also heard people saying that maybe 30% to wealth is too much. And 50% is meant to be like for fixed expenses, and then 20% for whatever you want to spend on. So it's really up to you.
It depends on your income as
It
well.
depends on your
Like
income.
3.2K is different from 10K,
Yeah,
20K, right?
yeah, for sure. So for myself, that's the category, that's the framework that I go with, because it's just easy to remember. Yeah, for where I am right now.
And 3.2K, I think it's very relatable to many Singaporeans. You know, looking at this number, across some YouTube channels or blog posts, articles, they will have like some crazy figure, right? But your content feels relatable, something that, you know, this is my situation.
Yeah, and to add on to that, because people don't even talk about salary to begin with, so you don't
it's
even
a secret. You think like people don't share about it openly?
Like, don't you think it's like a social thing? People don't really openly share how much they earn. Like, they say, oh, like I'm quite well to do, or like I earn high 5 figures, high 4 figures. I don't know. Like they put it in all these vague terms. So even somebody telling you the exact numbers of their monthly income is rare, I feel. And on top of that, to so transparently share where that money is going, how that money is budgeted, because context is very important here. You can earn the same as your friend, like both of you can be earning say 4.5K, but your material quality of life will look so different depending on your situation. Like if you're a single person living with your parents compared to if you're like a divorced mother with 2 children, both of you earning 4.5K, but your quality of life, your material quality of life can look so different. So that was what I was hoping to share, like my salary, but also how I am working within this income to lead the life that I'm living now. And you need that kind of like understanding of context to have empathy and to feel an emotional connection, or like a connection that, you know, someone else is going through the same thing as you are. Yeah, so that's like 2 sides I'm hoping to provide in this space, like not just transparency about numbers, but also hopefully a more nuanced understanding of context.
Yeah, I think the context is very important, right? Whether it's, we mentioned 3.2K or 10K, putting 50% of your expenses would mean different things for different people. So it's about your standard of living, your personal choices in life. But what do you think about this whole trend that we are not willing to really share our income? And you put your income out there openly, right?
Yeah. Trend of not sharing income. I think there are also some company policies.
It's not a trend. It's a culture. Culture would be a better word.
Culture also reinforced by some company policies. I think you're not even allowed to talk about salary with your colleagues.
Oh yeah.
So that one, I am for being open and transparent about it. Yeah, but I think I've heard of company policy saying you cannot discuss.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I think the trend now compared to last time is more transparency, more openness to talking about it, because I think it's a negotiating point also. And you know that there was a whole thing where it was revealed that female employees are paid less, and like the lack of transparency and discussion around salary contributes to that imbalance. I think the younger generation is more open to speaking about it, but it's not, I don't know, I guess people don't consider it polite conversation also to talk about how much you earn. Yeah, it's quite an individual personal decision for me to just like, you know what, I don't care, like here's how much I earn. I see no shame in sharing it.
Of course, I've read articles that take the position of openness, transparency, because it, like you say, is a negotiating factor for companies, right? So when HR asks you what's your previous salary and what's your expected salary, they have all the information, all the negotiating chips on their hands. Like you don't know anything, you don't know a budget, you don't know what was the previous person's salary, and you're just going in blind. So, and there's just talk about that as well. And of course, you mentioned about women's salary in the workplace being, you know, less than the male counterparts, and it's being unfair, and that's because we don't have, you know, transparency on this whole situation. We don't have visibility on it. It's very foggy right now. Yeah, so that's one thing that we can really think about. And someone has to start, right? You put yourself out there first, and you say this is your salary.
How am I supposed to talk about my budget if I don't share my salary? I don't know. That was my thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And maybe there is a very good reason why you shouldn't be sharing your salary to others, let alone online. But from where I am and where I was when I made that video, I didn't see any other way.
Okay, so 2 of your videos that blew up, one is on your monthly salary and the other one is on your HDB resale at 24 years old. How about something that you like among all these videos?
Oh,
You know, did something not blow up the video is there, but you love it so much, like so
Yeah.
precious. Why no one is clicking on it?
For sure, for
You
sure.
know, something like that.
But I think it's also expectations versus reality.
Okay.
I mean, with the 3.2K video and the HDB video, I sort of knew that even beyond me, these videos would travel to a wider audience that is outside of like the core audience that maybe cares about all the videos that I make or most of the videos that I make. The only series and the longest running series on my video on my channel is my Money
Money
Diaries.
Diaries.
Yeah, so
okay.
that is the month by month follow up on the low buy project that I am doing, right?
Maybe we can go into the low buy
Oh,
project
yeah,
at this
so,
point.
okay.
Yeah. So what is low buy and what is no buy? You know, the whole
Uh,
concept of it.
So low buy is a variation of the no buy. So the no buy year is project where you basically don't buy anything that is considered a non-necessity. And again, like definitions are all up to you here because what is a necessity to you is different to another person. But the gist of it is that you don't buy anything that is outside of the necessity category. And it could be that you do a no buy on certain categories as well. Like if you identify, say, clothing as your problem area that you want to do a no buy on, you can just restrict yourself in that category. And yeah, you don't buy anything for a certain period of time. It's not a lifestyle thing because if it's a lifestyle thing, then then it's just your life. But it's more like a short term project, I would say. It could be a month, it could be a year, and it's kind of like committing to a specific an exercise regime or a specific diet for a certain period of time. So I see
Good
it.
analogy.
Yeah, I see it in that kind of way. And then the low buy is a variation of that, which means that you impose a certain restriction on yourself. So for myself, it's $50 a month on what I consider is a non-necessity. And people do it for all kinds of reasons. So it could be for something as simple as wanting to save money for that month. A lot of the times I see people doing the no buy because there is something in their behavior or their mindset that they want to change. And the low buy or like a no buy or a low buy where there is a restriction on amount or the quantity that you can buy, that you can purchase, that really helps with sort of maybe resetting or helping you reevaluate some of your beliefs and attitudes towards spending. Oh, the analogy I thought of was like the reason why you put the brakes on spending, right, is because like say you're driving in a car and you think that the car is faulty. You cannot repair the car and drive at the same time. So
You gotta stop.
yeah, you gotta stop.
Look
and
for help or just help yourself.
yeah, and driving the car. Wow, I'm not explaining this analogy properly. When you're spending,
I'm following. I'm still in the car.
Yes.
Bring me there. Yeah.
Emotional process from like wanting the thing to actually buying the thing. That's like it's an ongoing cycle. You're wanting the thing and then you're buying the thing. But if you interrupt that cycle, you stop at the buying part, then you can analyze the wanting part and why you want something, or why you think you want something. So that's what I'm doing with this no buy or low buy. I am interrupting that thought process so that I can better understand myself and what my motivations are without like the end result, the consequence of already having bought the thing. So I am stopping the car and seeing how I can like change certain things or repair certain things.
Okay. Can I call it a detox in terms of your personal finance
Detox.
habits? Or am I just throwing one bad analogy after another?
'Cause I don't really know what detox means, honestly. Like expelling toxins, but what are the toxins?
Right. You change your because you used the diet example just now, right? So it's change your money habits or spending habits. So essentially, it's like you mentioned, it's not a permanent thing. It's not a permanent lifestyle that you have to stick to, but you can try it for half a year, 1 year. So for yourself, it's been half a year.
Yeah, I plan to do it for 1 year.
1 year. So you've been updating regularly the Money Diaries on YouTube channel. What has been your experience so far?
Well, it's some of my most vulnerable videos because it's firstly I'm sharing everything that I bought.
So vulnerable.
Yeah. So I'm sharing that, and then also the mindset changes over the last 6 months. I go into depth about that, and because shopping and spending money is so normal, right? But when I purposely take myself out of that cycle, when I stop driving, it gives you a different perspective, and if you're the only one who has stopped by the side of the road, then you're kind of lonely because everyone's going on without you. And something that I realized was that I don't really know what to do when I'm not shopping or when I'm not trying to actively desire things and work towards buying the thing that I desire. So I've been trying to read more, trying to work more, but I'm not used to this feeling of, I'm not used to not having this pastime. And so that has been something that I need to reflect on. Like, imagine you've been a meat eater all your life, and then suddenly you cut out meat. Then you're like, what do I put in my meals?
Yeah, and then all your
Yeah.
friends are meat eaters. When you go out for gatherings, they're still eating meat.
Yeah.
And leaving you behind.
So what do you do with your time, right? Like
Right.
when you're not shopping, when you're not actively participating in, no, I am still participating, but at a much reduced level.
Do you think parts of our identity, I mean, in this modern society, like, you know, what you spend on is also, it forms part of who you are.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find how else I can reinforce my sense of identity without needing to buy the things to reinforce that identity, right?
So without all this, who are you? Do you have that thought? Like, who am I, you know, in this process?
So I think that's a really valuable part of the low buy, because it really puts you through this grueling process of self-reflection and self-evaluation, and it's not fun. I mean,
you're still mulling over it. You're still thinking about it.
Yeah, 'cause
there's no answer.
yeah, I've never committed to this length of a project before. So we'll update at the end of the year what my feelings are. But right now, at the 6-month mark, this is where I'm at.
And that wasn't what you were expecting when you started, right? This realization that you're having right now. Did it serve what you intended for in the first place when you started this low buy year?
But expecting it is not the same as going through it.
Okay, you kind of knew that
okay, I knew intellectually that I'm gonna probably go through some hardship, but going through it is another thing.
Okay. Climbing the mountain itself is another thing.
Yeah.
You know it's gonna be tiring climbing this mountain,
that's
right?
right,
But it's like,
right.
going through it is another thing.
Yeah. So a worry that I had was that I'll just give in, right? Now I'm just gonna give up
in
on
public because
Yeah.
you're doing it online.
Yeah, so I think having the public YouTube channel helps.
Yeah, accountability.
But I am committed to the outcome, whatever it is. Like whatever realization I come to, the person that I become at the end of this year, I'm committed to seeing it through. It's just hard.
But you also have to put up all your expenses, everything that you bought online for people to see, right? And people judge you for it, or what's
It makes
experience?
you think twice about what you want to spend on.
Oh yeah, everything you spend on, people will know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, no, nobody has criticized me outrightly about the things that I spend on. I do get comments like, think about your necessities, think about your needs. But the interesting thing is, I'm living quite a comfortable life. Like, all my needs of survival and safety and comforts are cared for. Like, I have put aside money for those expenses. So the things that I do share, I really like, as in the expenses that I share, that I make from my sinking fund. Oh no, should I define that? The expenses that I do share that are the more frivolous things, they are meant to be frivolous. Because I don't want to cut off completely being able to spend my money on things that are purely to give me joy.
Do you recommend people try it? Low buy or no buy for, let's say, half a year, 1 year?
Would I recommend people do the no buy? For sure. At the very least, it will save you money, because you are restricting spending in a certain area, provided, of course, you are not redirecting that money elsewhere and spending more somewhere else. But the potential for behavioral and mindset shifts, I think, is the most valuable of doing the no buy project. Like, being able to self-reflect and evaluate. Yeah, it's like starting exercise or a certain diet, but it's not necessary for like financial planning or financial management or anything. It's really like a self-improvement project. That's how I see it.
So you really bear it all online, at least in terms of your financials. You know, put it online for people to discuss, to comment, and you see all these YouTube comments coming in, right? So what has your experience of that been so far? Like, have your perspectives changed because of what you share and then what people commented back to you in the YouTube videos? What did you learn from that? This whole process of putting yourself out there and then having people look at your finances in the spotlight.
In terms of my individual, like, personal guidelines and principles to how I manage my finances and how I think about it, hasn't changed very much. The difference is that now I have made it public. And so previously, when I was just absorbing knowledge, I was absorbing privately, right? And seeing how I can implement it in my life. So now I see what people say about how I've implemented things. It's like suddenly inviting a lot of guests to your house and then having them comment on how you've decorated it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you're just living by yourself and maybe inviting a couple of friends in.
And that you didn't sweep the floor, you know, this thing's out of place. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been something to navigate. Like how much weight do I give these comments? And like the hardest comments are the ones that are like directed at a specific vulnerability, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
but
we have an example of that?
somebody commenting how little I give my mother.
That's personal. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, but
yeah,
I get what I mean.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it hits you at a core.
Yeah. It's something
Right.
very, very like targeted and personal. But I have gotten,
Get you.
for all the negative comments that I get, I feel like I get 100 more positive ones.
Oh, that's a good way.
So that's what I try to focus on. Yeah, it's a lot of encouragement, a lot of empathy and connection from people. It motivates me. Like it makes me feel happy that I shared what I shared.
Your channel is a breath of fresh air to me
Thank you.
because it's about TikTok, right? It's about quick, snappy, headlines that capture your attention. So whereas your videos could be 50 minutes to 1 hour long, and it really goes in depth, you really spend the time to go into it. So I think it's kind of different. But I'm sure you've been looking at other YouTubers or even other blogs, how they do their financial content, especially in a Singaporean context. What do you think about the whole financial community in Singapore?
And I don't know how much of what I've seen is representative of the actual community. Before, like back in 2020, when I first got my job and I was looking into all these personal finance blogs and channels. And so because of that, I started getting all my YouTube ads were investment, passive income.
Give me 5 minutes and
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So and those were very off-putting. Like, and because I guess they were so irritating from the offset, I just ignored a lot of them. But all that was happening. There was also like the very nuanced and accessible blogs like Seedly, SingSaver. So these are very helpful. Like, I'm a big fan of the Woke Salary Man. Like, I really enjoy their content. All the finance Instagrams were starting and sharing like these bite-sized, accessible pieces of information. So it's very diverse and it's being made more accessible. So I think that's a very encouraging direction. Generally, I think personal finance is still very male dominated. A lot of perspectives and a lot of the people who are sharing are men. It's a different lived experience. I would love to hear more from women actually in the space. And yeah, like all the crypto bros,
to the moon.
yeah, and the focus on investing and passive income are common patterns that I see recurring, which is not very aligned with my own values and perspective. So I'm always trying to find find a place where I can sit comfortably and work on my own financial management outside of like outside of these voices and other perspectives.
I haven't asked this, and I realize I have to ask because it contextualizes it. So how are you this year?
I am turning 26 this year.
Your channel is where you really share your journey. It's relatively young and new channel. It's been half a year. So how has your personal relationship with money changed or over the years? What's your relationship with money right now?
My understanding of money has deepened. Like how money is generated, what role it plays in my life. And that deeper understanding is like positive in all the ways that you can imagine. I have better financial management. I have a sense of what I think is the best thing to do with my money in my current context. Something that I'm still working on is like associating money's subjective worth to my sense of security and safety. Because there is like a baseline level of survival and sense of safety that money has to cover, right? But I think for a lot of us, that's already covered. There's this really good article by Lawrence Yeo called "Money is the Megaphone of Identity," and he talks about money in 3 phases. So
Moretothat.com.
Yeah. So the first phase is security, I think, and then security, and then freedom, and then power. So in that first phase, security, the bottom end of that phase is of course like basic necessities, safety. But the higher end, where security moves into freedom, that is not so much about the amount of money that you have, but your mindset. So how much savings that you think is enough to guarantee that you can preserve your lifestyle the way it is like for the next few years. And that varies from person to person. So you could have $10,000 and feel very secure. You could have $100,000 and feel totally insecure. And I think that's the stage that I'm at now, where I want to be in a healthier mental space with money and not tie it so much to my sense of security and survival, because I know how much I depend on it. Like in my mind, like if I were to make a misstep, I feel like I snowball into thinking like this could result in financial ruin for me. So I think I need to move into a healthier relationship with money and just in the psychology of it. Because I have done like the best I can and I'm still trying to do the best I can with the technical aspects of it, so the knowledge of it. But the psychological part of it is something that I would like to work on further.
Is this where people's goalposts keep changing? Like you have a certain number in order to feel secure, but once you reached it, then you keep shifting it.
Yeah.
There's also a situation whereby I have this conversation with a married couple, Jingles and Ying Ying, you've met them. So the husband is doing his PhD right now. And so before that, you have to discuss, right? Because you're taking a pay cut to do the PhD. And then so logically, you work out the finances, they work it out and it's okay, you know, they can get by. They can still not compromise on their standard of living. But emotionally, that's the hard part, right? Because Jingles will have to take a pay cut in his salary. And so it feels, you know, like uncertain. There's the psychological aspects that's so hard to quantify.
Yeah. It's very nuanced, right? And this kind of thing, you want to talk to people about it. Maybe talk to a therapist, talk to your friends. Because money is money. It's just like dollar bills and numbers on a bank account, but how you manage it, all of that is emotional and psychological, so it's just as important.
Money is money. How would you define money?
It's just digital digits. sorry it's just numbers.
Digits on a screen. That's how
digits on a screen.
Digits on a screen. Given the way money is right now, of course.
If you don't have it, you're screwed.
Yeah, but hopefully let's not get these digits on the screen
controlling our life. Yeah.
There you go. What has been your best and worst investments you've made? Doesn't have to be a financial one. Something that comes to mind?
I thought of a few.
Oh,
I'm just wondering.
We have time.
Okay. The first best investment, I think, was getting a laptop. So I got my first laptop in Sec 1. And that the entire world was, I learned through my laptop. So I think just having that device, it opened my entire world. And I still think having like a computing device is irreplaceable. Like your phone cannot replace it. Maybe it can now, I don't know. But back then, like getting a laptop was the most life-changing thing. The second thing I thought about was going on an exchange semester when I was in university. Best investment, because the returns are emotional and self-development and how I see myself, taught me a lot of independence, which has informed my life now. Yeah, two best investments. Worst investment. A Time magazine subscription in JC.
I might have one of those though. Yeah, okay.
So when I entered JC, there were Time magazine salespeople like in my canteen, and they were just going up to students. We were 16 at this time, trying to push for subscriptions of their magazine for like 2 years. I think it's a bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks you get a magazine, right? And it was, I think, $200-$300, and they were trying to sell it to the parents, to the students, saying that it's good for GP, general paper. You need to know, you want to keep up to date with current affairs. So it was very much like fear-based, like FOMO-based kind of selling. And I think I spent $200-$300 of my own money.
And it was not a good investment because you didn't benefit from it, or
I did not have the time to read through the magazines for what they promised it to be. Yeah, but I thought it was quite not very ethical the way they did it.
I think that's our first experience of sales pitches.
Yeah.
That's the version of give me 5 minutes back then.
Yeah.
Right? And then we're like, oh, okay, I have to buy it because you said fear-based,
and then
right?
they're like all your other schoolmates are buying it. You want to know what's up with the world because this will be useful for your grades, for general paper. You want to know what to talk about.
But you see, these tactics are still being used today,
sure.
So it works at some level.
You're right, it's our first experience of hard selling.
Yeah, it's a deeper psychological level. What's one thing under $100 that you think has been a game changer for you?
I have a few. I thought of a few. And I tried to keep it in the $100 range because like no use giving you something that's $20, right? A hand vacuum. So if you have long hair and you shed a lot of hair, a hand vacuum is so useful to just clean up your space a little bit. The next thing is a hydro flask. Sorry, this is not really in the spirit of the question, is it? I'm just giving you things to buy.
Doesn't fit into the low buy concept. My listeners are thinking, no, I'm gonna get this.
Pace yourself. Like a tumbler a vacuum seal tumbler. So that it keeps your cold water cold and your hot water hot. So I got my first vacuum tumbler in 2016. And I've never switched back to a regular plastic bottle because I will never go out of the house without cold water. I will never drink room temperature water ever again. I will always just have cold water with me.
It's good for the weather when it's
Yeah,
hot.
save money. So you don't have to buy drinks outside. And you can put a lemon in there. And you drink more water. I don't know. Do people drink enough water nowadays?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think I would
don't
drink the
think so.
amount of water I do if I didn't have a tumbler.
One place that you learn from that you think is underrated that you want to share with our listeners, it could be a book, a website, a blog.
Yeah, many that I've learned from. And like Seedly, I think it's not even underrated, it's deservedly rated, because they make it so accessible and still educational for people. I really like the Financial Diet. They're more based in the US, but they do more of the psychological and sociological analysis of managing personal finance, which I think is very helpful. There is also Smart Mamat. They talk about personal finance and investing within like the Muslim context. So Sharia compliant guidelines. I don't personally follow it, but the fact that it exists as a resource for people, I think is very helpful for those who want to follow like the Islamic guidelines to investing.
Yeah, people can find out more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.